Well, if you told me you were drowning, I would not lend a hand. I've seen your face before, my friend, but I don't know if you know who I am. Well, I was there and I saw what you did. I saw it with my own two eyes. Still couldn't wipe off that grin. I know where you've been. It's all been a pack of lies. I can feel it coming in the air tonight. Oh Lord, but I've been waiting for this moment for all my life. Oh Lord, I can feel it in the air tonight. Oh Lord, oh Lord, but I've been waiting for this moment for all my life. Oh Lord, I can feel it coming in the air tonight. Oh Lord, but I've been waiting for this moment for all my life. Oh Lord, I can feel it in the air tonight. Oh Lord, oh Lord, but I've been waiting for this moment for all my life. Oh Lord,
Wow. In the air tonight.
Haven't done that in a while.
Well, if you haven't already been able to tell, we're here with the incomparable Daryl Stuermer and getting him to play some of the original parts that you created for Phil Collins, amongst other artists that we're going to be speaking about today, and your amazing career. Daryl, thank you so much for agreeing to host us here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Oh, thanks.
And allowing us into your home studio and getting to hear you recreate some of these signature parts of yours.
Thank you. Yeah, you're welcome.
It's been full service already. We got it picked up and breakfast and all that.
Breakfast at Canella.
Yeah.
Our favorite breakfast place.
Yeah, great spot. Well, I can't wait to get into this stuff with you. The first question I want to ask you, just hearing you play this, is what is a Phil Collins session like? Is it a live thing? Is it overdubs? Is it a compilation of those two? Like, how could you sort of set the stage for what a typical Phil Collins session might look like?
Yeah, it sort of depends on the song. In the Air Tonight was kind of unique, where he had done the keyboards and the drum machine at his house, and he lived in Surrey, England, and he did all those parts. I'll never forget the story that I always tell is that when I first heard this song, I was at a Genesis rehearsal. So that would have been a 1980 Genesis rehearsal. And I was ready to go back into town. And Phil said, would you like to, are you going back into London? I said, yeah. And he says, I'll give you a ride back. I said, okay. So I get in his car and he says, I wanted to play you something. And he puts on this cassette of this song, In the Air Tonight. And at that time, it was before it had the drums, the big drum fill, but it was very moody. And I'm listening to it. And that's the first time that I knew that Phil ever kind of wrote a song all by himself. And I thought, wow, this is fantastic. This would be great with Genesis. You know, that's what I didn't know he was going for a solo album or anything. I don't know if he knew.
What year do you think this would have been approximately?
1980.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's when we were rehearsing in the beginning of the year of 80. And so he played the song. And then he played me another song on side B, was a song called I Missed Again. Totally different song. Almost sounds like more like a Motown type of song.
Right, with all the horns. I don't know if it had horns at that point, but...
Yeah, it had synthesizer horns. And then so he played that for me, and I thought, oh my God, what a great song. I had no idea what this would become. So go ahead now to like maybe December of 1980, after the Genesis tour was over. And I lived in Santa Monica, California at that time. And I went over to the studio where he was starting to record a solo album. And so that song already had everything but the drums on it, or I should say just synths, chords, drum machine. And then he put on this drum fill, which changed everything. But I had done all this right in the control room. I did everything there. I think I was using this guitar called the Suntech guitar. That's what I had at the time, kind of a Strat-like with the EMG.
Probably the SA pickups
and but it was a nice guitar for its time, and I think somebody has it right now.
Yeah.
Because I remember getting a note that said, "I think I have your guitar," and somebody wrote that to me on Facebook or somewhere and sent a picture. I said, "Yeah, that's it." I should have put my initials somewhere on it to be sure, but I'm pretty sure that was it. And so that session was me in the control room by myself. Other songs on the album, there was a song called like Behind the Lines, which Genesis ended up doing on an album, a totally different version. But Phil liked this version. He thought it was more like a Michael Jackson song. So it was kind of army. So there was a bass player named Alfonso Johnson, who played in Weather Report before Jocko. And he was on bass, and I'm on guitar, Phil's on drums. That was a total live performance. And I don't know if there was no keyboards yet, so it was just guitar playing the chords. Later on, keyboards were put on, then horns after that, because it was a very horn-like R&B song. So it always depended on what song it was, what he had done prior at his house. What he had was an 8-track player. It was a recorder with reel-to-reel 8-track. That's what that. So what you're actually hearing on the album is the keyboards are all done in this reel-to-reel 8-track. So that's how that song was done. But other things were done. This was Village Recorders in L.A.
Yeah.
Is that West L.A.?
Yeah, I guess it could. I don't think it's quite Santa Monica, but it's going. Right. It's going that way. If you continue taking, it's on Santa Monica Boulevard. I think.
Yeah, I think it was It was about a mile away from my house.
Yeah.
I went, well, this is great. Doing an album with Phil Collins and not knowing that he's going to become what he became. I just know that every song we did on Face Value, that was the name of the album, was a joy. You know what I mean? Everything is like a big surprise because that album was all over the place as far as it wasn't one kind of song.
Right.
He even did a Beatles tune, and I don't remember the other songs right offhand, but everything was fun.
One of the things that song sort of cemented as kind of part of the 1980s as far as sort of production and drum sounds is, of course, that iconic gated reverb sound, which predated him. I think he maybe gets credited more with that application, but it was also used in a Peter Gabriel song and record that predated this.
Yeah. Do
you remember much about kind of hearing that for the first time and then hearing it a lot more with a lot of other artists subsequently?
Yeah.
But like, what was your reaction to kind of that, the gated thing that, Hugh kind of, I guess he's kind of credited with like masterminding that.
Yeah. Right? Hugh Padgham, the engineer. Yeah. It was really a combination of the guys that did that Peter Gabriel album. We call it The Intruder.
Right.
I think the song.
Right, that was the name of the song. Yeah.
That whole thing came about because I think it was Peter. I don't know this as a fact, but I think Phil said that Peter said, why don't we do this drum fill, not drum fill, but feel without cymbals. So when you do that, you can really turn up the gates. So somebody had an idea, let's put it real gated, have it a big sound. Phil was a real fan of John Bonham, which had sort of that sound too, just by the sound of his drums. Phil always had, like, his tom-toms were very live. He likes a lot of kind of noise in between, and he does these things with it. He always has that little, and that along with the gate makes such a difference. So Peter thought of like no cymbals. He said, let's do the album without cymbals. I don't think anybody used. I think Jerry Marotta played on that album too, the drummer. Phil played on a few of the songs,
but Phil played on Intruder, right?
Yeah, oh yeah. But there's other songs on the album. I think it's Jerry Marotta and Phil, depending on the song. And so I think the whole album doesn't have any cymbals.
Yeah.
It might have hi-hat, but I don't think there's any cymbals. So that's how that all came about. Steve Lillywhite was the producer. And so Hugh Padgham, Phil, Peter, they all kind of came up with this. Who came up with it first? I don't know.
Yeah.
But then I hear it all. Then I hear it in his music, In the Air Tonight. The really interesting thing about the drum fill in the Air Tonight, everybody thinks it just goes da 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 da, but there's a kick drum in between da 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 da. That kick drum is the thing that people don't really hear, but it's there as part of the feel, and it's there. If you really listen hard, you can hear da da da, you know, da 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 da. You know, but everybody goes ding 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 ding, and it's also phlegmy. Right. Only Phil could come up with that. You know, he's just. Everybody thinks of it as a very simple thing, but it's iconic.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody loves that Phil, and I'll tell you that this is a fact for me. That is my favorite song to play live. Because a lot of people say, "What's your favorite song?" And I go, "Well, you know, they're like my kids. I like them all." But this one is my favorite, you know, and I think it's my favorite because when you look out in the audience, they're waiting for the drum fill. And Phil is walking around with a headset and a mic here, and he just gets to that drum. I don't know if you've seen this on YouTube, just in time to play. Yeah. He just, dun, 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 and you're thinking he's not going to make it. But I can tell you one funny story. In 1997, we had where the drums come up in the middle of the stage. We were in the round, and this drums come up. They didn't come up. And he's going like, in his mind, he's thinking, what the, you know? And he's looking down. He's kind of going, he's looking as he's walking towards it. He's thinking, where are the drums? I don't even see any of them coming up because they try to make it just where he gets there and he jumps on and plays. He jumped down into the hole and did the drum fill. It was like unbelievable.
So some acrobatics there.
It was the only time that's ever happened where they weren't. Well, most of the time they're just sitting there, but this was one where they wanted to do this dramatic thing.
So they continue with that.
Yeah, they did,
okay.
But it never happened again. and no one was fired. You know, I remember he would say, "I'm going to have to sack somebody." You know, that's the British term they use. We don't say fired; they say sacked.
One other thing, kind of speaking of the drums, is the actual time is confusing for a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
Can you kind of talk us through how you count?
Yes.
In the Air Tonight?
Yeah, because it was confusing to me. Even when I did the record, I didn't know that I was playing it in the wrong place. I mean, that thing, I was like looking at it. What am I supposed to? Phil, this is where you should come in here, because we came up with the idea of starting with the. And he says, I want kind of an electric razor sound. That's what I came. And I think I was using besides my Suntech guitar, I was using a Governor.
Oh, the Marshall pedal.
Marshall pedal.
Yeah.
And I just turned it way up.
And was it going into a Marshall amp or what?
It was going into an amp. I wish I could tell you that was a Marshall. I don't know.
Okay.
There was, you know, I always used the amps that were around me. I rarely had to bring my own.
Okay.
They were always somewhere, but it probably was a Marshall. Or at least the cabinet was. And what was I talking about?
You were talking about the time.
Oh, yeah, the time. Yeah. So I remember Phil would go like this, point at me. Because when you hear the song, it goes, this, it's like a hi-hat going.
Yep.
So all of us go, one. That's what we go, 1, 2, 3. But that's not where it is. As soon as you hear the hi-hat, that's one. Instead of.
Right.
You'll hear the audience clapping along with the wrong. They start doing it, which makes me go, oh my God. When this finally comes in, it sounds like it's in a different place. So for the longest time on tour, Phil always had a foot pedal. He would just step on it, go, right? So he would just be walking and he'd step on it and I go, oh, I didn't hear. I hear. And a lot of us had this problem. I remember even our keyboard player, Brad Cole, said, where's one? I go, it's not. Anyway, so it always became a confusing. So what I would do is I would always look over at Phil to see where he's getting close to that pedal and I'd see him go, because I was thrown off by this whole thing for probably a whole tour. And then when Brad Cole, our keyboardist, came in the band, it kind of threw him off at first.
Yeah.
But then I told him, this is where it is. But anyway, that's what it is. You know, can I play that?
Yeah.
3, 4. Oh, that's on there. I forgot that's on there. Yeah, so that's it. 2, 3, 4. But now that you know that, it's not so hard. But when you first hear it, you're thinking it's in a different place.
Yeah.
That happens with a lot of Phil's songs. He has this weird drum kind of rhythm that he comes up with rhythms that I go. There was another song in Genesis we used to do called Lonely Man on the Corner. I don't know where one is to this day. I don't. So I just go along with whatever. They had a song called Down and Out in 1978 when they did, then there were 3, and it's called Down and Out. But on the cassette that I got to audition for them, it was called 5/8 because it's in 5/8. But I asked Mike where one was. I asked Tony. I asked Phil, and they all had a different place. So it doesn't matter. You just, I can't play that for you, but that happens every once in a while, especially with Phil songs.
Yeah.
Anything that he's got his hands in, you just go, "Where's one in this?" Because he's got such an interesting way of thinking of it in terms of melody. You know. Anyway.
Well, I'm curious about sort of the trajectory of how you got with Phil Collins, because you're from here, you're from Milwaukee, and you've had this very interesting, route to get to be with this British pop star.
Yeah. Pop star band.
Yeah. And so I'm curious what the pathway looked like. I know a lot of us know that you played with Jean-Luc Ponty, that you were with Gino Vanilli, you were with Genesis, and those kind of all led you. But I'm kind of curious if you could sort of rehash sort of the series and sequence of events that led to you ultimately ending up being with Phil and being his guitar player, for his entire solo career, presumably.
I pay him a lot of money to be in that band. No, it all started pretty much because I had a local band called Sweet Bottom, and I won't tell the whole long story, but somehow Frank Zappa's band came into town, and they came down to this nightclub where my band was playing for 5 nights a week. We were kind of known as the band around town, jazz fusion more or less. And so the Zappa band comes in, and by the way, Chester was the drummer. And a guy named Ralph Humphreys and Chester Thompson were the 2 drummers with the band. And Tom Fowler was on bass, which I ended up playing with in the end. They sat in, and the keyboardist was George Duke, a great keyboard player, a guy that I was a fan of. And I was 21 years old, and we jammed, we played. And I remember I said to him, I thought, because a lot of people were changing off. Now another drummer would come up, and now another bass player, whatever. My brother would play bass, or Tom Fowler would play bass. And I was taking my guitar and I was putting it down, and George Duke said, "Where are you going, kid?" And I said, "Oh, I thought maybe I'd give it somebody else." He said, "Just stay up here." And I went, "Okay." And I was like, I was like blown away that George Duke liked me, liked my playing. So what happened down the line, my band and I went out to LA. We were trying to sell a tape, trying to find a record deal. We would have never gotten a record deal with this recording, even though it was it wasn't commercial, and we were getting turned on. But our singer that we had at the time, named Sylvia St. James, was already out in LA, and she had done some work with George Duke. So George Duke said to Sylvia, he said, "Oh, I'm here. My band from Milwaukee came out here," and he said, and George Duke said, "Oh, is that guitar player there?" And they said, "Yeah." He says, "Let me talk to him." So he talked to me in the hotel, and he said, "Jean-Luc Ponty's looking for a guitarist." And he says, I would like to bring your name forward." I'm going, "Oh my God." I was a fan of Jean-Luc Ponty already. This is prior to him getting a record deal in America. Is this okay that it's a long story?
Yeah, please. We want to hear it.
Okay. Because this is really how everything started. And so Jean-Luc Ponty calls me at my hotel, and I'm so nervous. because I'm just a big fan of this guy. And plus, I'm 21 and God, he's 32 years old. My God, he's a veteran. in my mind, this guy's been around forever.
Right.
And he's a wonderful player. And so Jean-Luc says, I'm auditioning guitars. Could you come by in like 2 days and come over? I'm going, okay. So I get dropped off at his house on Little Laurel Canyon Drive. That's what it's called. There's Laurel Canyon. There's a little one street. And I remember getting out of the car. I'm getting dropped off by my sax player, Warren Wheatgrass, and the drummer, Mike Murphy. And I get dropped off and I look and he's coming out of his door. And I'm going, that's fucking Jean-Luc Bonny.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. You know, I'm going, oh my God. So I remember getting out, and as I'm walking, my legs are ready to give out. I'm so nervous to meet this guy. And he's a very, sweet guy, and he's Daryl Stuermer, glad to meet you. Come on in. He says, this is the keyboardist, Patrice Russian. And she's like this little 4'11" tall keyboardist, plays like Herbie Hancock.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know who that is.
Oh, of course, Forget Me Nots, and all that. Yeah.
She's an incredible player.
Yeah.
And she's and she's like a year younger than me. So she's like 20 or 21. And Jean-Luc puts music in front of me and I'm going, oh God, I'm not the greatest sight reader. I can read music, but I can't sight read music, but I can memorize very quickly. So he puts this first song in front of me, and it's called Poly Folk Dance in 9/8. And it's, I think it went like, how did that go? So I'm looking at it doing this, without my amp on, just like I'm doing here. And I'm thinking, okay. And I go through the whole thing. I go, okay, here's where it stops. And this is 4/4, thank God. So I never read better in my life. I read that pretty well. Then he puts up another song called Up On It. Okay, we go through about 4 or 5 songs. And I solo too. And he says, well, I don't know what exactly what's going on. This is my first album on Atlantic, and I want to put a tour together. We're thinking about August. And I don't remember what time this was, probably in winter, I don't know. And he ends up saying that he liked my playing, and we'll see what happens. And I ended up going out with him. I went out with him in August of that year in 1975. And I was with him for 3 years, did 3 actual albums with him, one called Aurora, Imaginary Voyage, and Enigmatic Ocean, which also had Alan Holsworth on it. My God. And then after that, what happened? This is getting to Genesis. I got a call from their tour manager named Dick Frazier, and he calls me and he says, Genesis is looking for a guitarist. And Mike Rutherford said he heard you on a record and he'd like to audition you. So I ended up, make a long story short, they flew me to New York, and I was going to be the first American guitarist to audition, because apparently they auditioned about 20 people in England, and they didn't find what they wanted. And they thought, come to America, they'll probably find somebody, because this is a big country and it's a very competitive, and a lot of players in America can play many different styles and things. And I remember they sent me a cassette, and the cassette had 5 songs on it. And the first one was called Calypso. And that song is actually Follow You, Follow Me. Mm-hmm. That was the working titles. These were working titles. And then 5/8 was Down and Out. And then there was 3 other ones that were from a Trick of the Tail album. Great songs like Los Endos. And so I sat and I learned those songs first. And I just sat and made sure I learned these songs like backwards and forwards. So when I went to the audition, I was the first guy in the morning at 10 o'clock. They put me up at the Plaza Hotel. I took a taxi over to SIR where this was happening. And I walked in, I'm thinking, oh God, here's the whole band. And I walk in, it's just Mike Rutherford. It's just I don't know if the manager told me the whole band was going to be, or it was just going to be Mike. But Mike's very tall. And I come in, I'm, thinking, okay, let's see what happens. They had a pedal board for me. I was not used to a pedal board. In Jean-Luc Ponty, I think all I used was a wah-wah. That was the only thing I used. Everything else was straight into the amp. And I'm looking at it going, okay, what do I do with this? And Mike says, well, for this one, Steve did this. And he puts on a color sound tone bender or something, which sounds kind of like this thing. Oh, that's what I should put this in, shouldn't I? Which is more like that kind of... And it's that kind of like overdrive sound, which I didn't know anything about, other than making my amp louder and making it distort. So, and then he also had an Echoplex.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, okay, how do you use this? And he says, well, you just take this little dial or whatever.
Right, this little slider, and then
Sounded great though.
Yeah.
I was thinking, God, how could I sound like this? This is incredible. I thought a lot of the sounds on the album that Steve Hackett was playing was the keyboard synth. But it was him,
right?
You know, and it sounded fantastic. I mean, he's a great player. He comes up with the greatest ideas. And so, but on this particular tape, a couple of the songs there were three. A couple of the songs were from A Trick of the Tail. And so we start playing the songs, and we have a monitor, and then this amp. Don't remember what the amp was, and I think it was just like a JC 120 or something. Very straight, solid state amp. And Mike had a cassette player, and he played the first song. We played for about 2 or 3 minutes of the song. Then he stopped it. He said, let's go on to the next song. Fast forward, you know, go to the next song. We did the same thing, played about 2 or 3 minutes, went to the next song, went to Los Angeles, which is a much more difficult kind of thing at a different time. We played more of that song. And then we got to about the 4th song, 5th song, and he says, well, I think you're the one. I'll never forget that. Well, I think you're the one. And in my mind, I'm going, I am? Because I thought, okay. So he said, what I'm going to do is I'll ring you at the hotel at 5:00. But I have 3 or 4 other guitarists I have to audition today. So I go back to my hotel and I call my wife and I say, well, I think I might have this. And I was kind of like thinking to myself, when I was with Jean-Luc Ponty, I was kind of second to him as far as solos and things. And I thought, but in Genesis, will I have that? Will I have that kind of thing, you know? And I said to my wife, so I'm not sure. She says, are you kidding? She says, just take it if they give it to you. Yeah. She thought I was crazy. I was being like an artist, you know? Right. But I didn't know yet how big of a deal this was, and how not only financially it would lift me, but it was like the popularity of this band and how much guitar work there really is. Like I said, I thought a lot of this stuff was keyboard synth, but it was Steve Hackett. Mm-hmm. And I thought, am I going to have that freedom that I had in Jean-Luc Ponty to really blow a solo for as many minutes as I want? No, you're not going to get that. But what I ended up with was an incredible situation, and much more than I ever thought it would be. Mm. That's how I got to that Genesis audition. But when I was at the hotel, Mike called me at 6 p.m. So, because 5:00 came around and didn't call me, I thought, oh, maybe I didn't get it. But he calls me at 6, and he has me come to his room. He says, let's write down these songs. I'm going to play you some of these songs. These are the ones we're going to have to learn by February. And I think this was December. And there was I'll never forget, there was 26 songs. Mm. And they don't write music because nobody reads music. Tony Banks can read music to a point, but no one writes it down. These are things you have to memorize. And some of them are really long, especially the old Genesis stuff. But I didn't realize at the time, a lot of these are going to be medleys. So we don't have to play the whole song or the whole part. They're going to pick out things. So I said to Mike Rutherford after we talked, and I said, can I just ask you, I said, I recognize 2 of the names of the guys that audition. They're good guitar. And I said, what is it about me that why did you pick me? He says, first of all, you came prepared. He says, you learned the songs. He said, one guy came in and said, okay, so what key? What key is this song? And he said, let's do Follow You, Follow Me, or Calypso. He said, what key? So the guy didn't know. He was just going to wing it. And he said, another guy said, what style of music is it? And I'm going, it's Genesis. Right. You know, that's the style of music. It's not a particular style. It's sort of a prog rock-ish, but it's its own thing. And so he said, basically, not only can you play, you came prepared, you seem to want to play this music. And I did. I was already a kind of a fan of them because Jean-Luc Ponty had turned me on to Genesis. And the only albums I ever heard of them was A Trick of the Tail and Wind and Weathering, which are the two first albums that Phil ever sang as the lead vocalist. And I thought to myself, this band is fantastic. I loved the music right away because I loved things like King Crimson and Yes, and bands like that already. Even though I was kind of a jazz fusion guy, I could relate to that stuff, more than anything else. And so that's how it came about.
And so you obviously got to know Phil from that.
Yeah.
And then when he branched out solo, you were his first call?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, he already knew what I did, So so in 1978, went on tour with Genesis. I wasn't going to become a member of the band. I was going to be becoming a tour member. And the other thing that Mike asked me, he said, "Do you play bass?" And I went, "Yeah." I wasn't a bass player, but I could play. My brother's a bass player, so I was dabbling playing bass. I felt that I didn't play bass guitar for real until about 5 years later. It took some tours before I felt like a bass player. I knew where that feel is. I really felt comfortable. Before I was playing the notes, but after a while I was really playing bass. And I loved it more and more and more. So it ended up where I was playing bass pretty much on half of the music, and anything that Steve Hackett played guitar on, I was playing guitar on that song.
All right.
Or else Mike might say, I didn't do a lot with the guitar part. Maybe you could do this song on something that he played guitar. So that's how that all came about.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, it's got to feel like you just won the musician's lotto by being this guy, great player here in Milwaukee, and ending up in such a dissimilar place, and being
England.
with these incredible bands and artists like Genesis and Phil Collins.
Yeah, I'm very, very, very fortunate. I mean, the one thing I always stress to other people, if you're going to audition for something, know what you're going to audition, like learn something about that. Even when after I did the first tour with Genesis in 78, in 1978 in December, we played in Tokyo. That was our last show in 1978. And I came home to, I went back to Santa Monica. My wife went to Milwaukee because we were going to get married in about a week. So I stopped into my apartment, and I called up a friend of mine named Mark Cranny, plays drums he ended up playing drums with Gino Vanelli. Is it okay to talk about Gino now? Yeah. And I called up Mark and I said, "Yeah, I'm in town. I'm going to get married in Milwaukee next week." And he says, "Are you playing with Genesis next year?" I said, "Well, Mike's wife is having a baby and Tony's wife is having, so we're not going to do anything that year for sure. And I don't know what's coming up." And he said, "Well, listen, I'm starting to play with Gino Vanelli. We did an album called Brother to Brother."
Yeah.
Great album.
His best, in my opinion. And Carlos Rios on guitar.
Yeah. Great stuff. Appaloosa, Brother to Brother. Great songs. And he says,
I think I Just Want to Stop is also on that one. Isn't it?
That was the hit, which Ross Vanelli wrote that song.
Okay.
That's the one song that Ross wrote, and Gino wrote the rest. But it became a hit. And so I said to him, he said, "Would you like to audition for Gino?" He said, "I'll give him a call if you're here for the next few days." I said, "Yeah, I'm here for about 3 days." So he calls up Gino, and he said, "Yeah, Gino would like to audition you." So I went out and bought Brother to Brother right away. I had already heard it and bought some of his other albums. So I got prepared for this audition, which is what I emphasize for anybody to do. Learn, and I already knew about Gino Vanelli because I had a couple of his albums. And I remember going to the audition, and it was the strangest audition because I've never done this before. There was 3 other guitarists there, and we're all in the same room in a studio. I don't remember what studio it was. I can't remember, but it was in LA. And he said, "We're going to do a song called Appaloosa. We're going to do just the feel of Appaloosa."
So you just started, da, 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 da.
Yeah, but we're going to do just the rhythm part. We're just going to...
Which is a more like heavy rhythmic right hand.
He wants to see how you feel. And he says, "So when I go like this, you play the rhythm. When I point at you, you play the solo. So we start. So he would change off and go, okay, now you play the rhythm. And while the song is going on, Joey Vanelli's playing keyboards, Mark Carney's on drums. I don't know if we had a bass player yet. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
If we did, it was Neil Steubenhaus,
Okay.
because that's who we first were going to have in the band. And so we're playing this, and we do this audition, and it was probably about an hour of stuff. And then we played the chords, Brother to Brother.
Yeah.
Another great song. And all of a sudden, the manager, Mike, his name was Bill Johnston, and he says to me, come on in the back here. And then we go into another room, and he says, Gino really likes your playing, so we'd like to have you in the band. So I'm okay. So when I come to Milwaukee, I go, guess what? I got another gig. And it's with Gino Vanelli, someone who I really like already. So I was very fortunate to get that, and thank God for Mark Cranny to put me forward, because I had worked with Mark Cranny in Jean-Luc Ponty's band. Yeah. He was our second drummer. We had 3 drummers. A guy named Norman Farrington, then Mark Cranny, and then Steve Smith, who ended up playing with Journey later, and is like another incredible drummer. So anyway, I've been very fortunate.
Yeah, it's a great time. And you think about all those players, and Jean-Luc, Genesis, then Gino, and then in between, and then Genesis and Phil sort of in perpetuity following that. That's incredible. Well, you came in at probably the hardest time to play in Gino's band after that record.
Oh my God.
Such just a guitar playing wise, if anybody can connect me with Carlos Rios, he's the guy that we should talk to. I talked to him on the phone a few times, and the one thing I remember him saying about that is he says he hated the way that he sounded.
Oh, really?
He said he thought it had way too much gain, and if he were to record it now, he would have never used that much. And he said it was a Mark I Mesa Boogie with a 335.
Wow.
That was
I think he sounded great.
I did too. I was like, you're out of your mind.
Or is it just his playing is so good that you forget about it? I think it sounded great.
I think it's incredible.
Yeah, I do
from
too.
the very first note. Well, I appreciate you rehashing that for us. I know that a lot of us are interested to know what it is that you did as far as kind of the trajectory to get where you are. I want to move to another song by Phil Collins. Well, I guess it's Philip Bailey and Phil Collins.
Oh, yeah.
And a record that he produced for him, his first sort of solo record separately from Earth, Wind, and Fire, I believe. Mm-hmm. And the song is Easy Lover. Now, we've talked to Nathan East about this, and he gave us a little bit of a glimpse into it, but I'm curious from your perspective, sort of how things came to be. How did this song come to be? Can you kind of give us the context for, what happened, your involvement? Mm-hmm. All we really know is from Nathan is that he had come up with something on the piano that kind of informed the song, mm-hmm. and that the record was pretty much done, but they needed a single, they needed a hit.
That's actually right. And
so take it from there.
Yeah. Because this was done at Polar Studios, I think. Oh no, it was a Townhouse Studios in London.
In London, okay.
Yeah, and we were doing this record. We had done probably, I don't know, maybe 10 songs.
Yeah,
and Phil Collins and Philip Bailey said, there's just not that one song that we need, or whatever it is. And then I saw like Nathan going into the studio and coming doom doo 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 doing that, and I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. So we're sitting there and they're getting the song together. I think he kind of pulled it all together. I mean, Philip Bailey was with him doing this as well. And Phil was just kind of like letting them get started on this. Go ahead and I'll never forget. And then we played that live in the studio with all the basic track, played all the power chords and all that. I did the solo later.
As an overdub?
Yeah, as an overdub. I was in the studio, and I had there was definitely a Marshall amp out there. And I don't think I had any overdrive. It just pushing that thing like crazy.
Was it a Strat or what was it?
Believe it or not, this sounds really odd that it would be, but it was my Roland, that synth guitar.
Okay.
That's what the guitar on that.
Really?
Yeah, but I had it on, this pickup, but I don't know if I had a single coil. I don't remember what it was, but I remember doing. George Massenberg was the engineer, and and I remember doing the solo, and then they say to me, "Can you double that?" Remember, there's a lot of doubling in those days.
Yeah.
Like in the 80s, you double your solo or you double the guitar part. And I go, okay, play it back to me. So I did double it. If you hear the song, you could sort of hear a little bit of that, the ghosting.
Chorusing
Yeah, a little
stuff that
bit.
happens.
And they put it way under, but it's there and it just lifts it up a little more. And I was surprised I could redo it, but I had done it. I improvised it. I mean, I just did the first take, and then we didn't like the ending of it. Just the last 2 or 4 bars, whatever it was at the very end. I did this fast line, and then the last couple bars, we thought we could do something else there. So what we did is they had me solo 4 takes. So they had 4 solos to go to. And what they did is take everything up to that last couple of bars, and they put that as my second take. And the third and fourth, I knew the song too well. I knew the solo too well. I wasn't coming up with anything new. You almost have to get me right away because that's going to be the inspiring solo. And after that, if I know too much what I'm doing, then it's not as interesting. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get it.
So it was the first and second take.
It's not dangerous anymore.
It's not dangerous. It's too slick. It's too clean. So the first part of the whole solo is the first take, and then the very end of the solo is from another take.
And you told me when we kind of did our talking on the phone that most people actually don't play the solo correctly. You had sent me and we'll credit her because shout out to her for playing it. It's a young woman on YouTube that just plays it like as like a short, like a vertical short on YouTube that just does like a take of the solo. And you said she's the closest that you found.
Is.
So what are the things that people get wrong as guitar players that are trying to reinterpret the solo? If you could sort of rehash it a little bit for us.
Yeah. Like the one line, I don't know if I could play it.
Well, and, to the degree that you can either verbalize it or, if there's anything that you want to show us.
There's a fast line. They get most of the other stuff right. Not correct. It depends on where you play it. Like this, some people play it up here. It sounds different to me up there than it does. And it's these notes. But there's a fast line in there, which I find very difficult to play today, that everybody gets wrong except her.
Yes.
And when I say wrong, I understand. It's fast. It's hard to hear all those notes. And I can hear all this. When I see somebody doing the solo, I go, yeah, that's it. No, that's not it.
Yeah.
You don't have that right. But you have the right to change it. You know what I mean? But if they're trying to do it exactly the same, that's where most people get it wrong.
Yeah. Well, shout out to her. We'll show a little frame of it so that she gets her due credit for hearing it right.
Yeah.
But it's also, this solo has become viral on Instagram. I know that we exchanged some texts about that one. I think it was in Germany or something like that in the early 90s. 1990. And I think the caption's something to the degree of like what every guitar player like hopes his band does while he's doing his guitar solo. Yeah. They've got sort of a choreographed thing that they're doing, and then you're just on a red Eric Clapton Strat, with lace sensors, and you're doing that. How was this brought to your attention?
Somebody sent me a clip. So just a friend of mine said, "Look at this. This is funny," and it shows Phil with the 2 backing singers doing this kind of head bobbing thing while I'm soloing, which is really funny. And do I play? I think I play the solo the same way because that solo.
Yeah, it sounds like it's like the record.
What I started doing after 1990, I started at the end playing a really big fast riff at the very end instead of what I do. I just wanted to make it maybe a little different, but do everything up to that point. Do the fast line as well, and then at the very last 2 bars, play this long triplet thing, and. But on this clip, I think I just do the regular.
Yeah,
solo.
it sounds like it's pretty straight ahead, and it's got millions and millions and millions of views, and so it's kind of this viral clip of you, Daryl.
I miss that guitar too. That wasn't my Strat. That was our stage manager. He had that, and it's lighter than the one that I have. What it was, the pick guard was. What do you call it?
Oh, it's got like a perloid, kind of pick guard.
That's how we could tell. That's his. This is mine.
Right, because the Clapton one is a pretty flimsy, like single ply pick guard.
Yeah, and I still own that guitar with a different neck on it, I loved playing that solo. Over the years, since Phil's voice got lower, we started going. It was originally in the key of F minor. We were playing it in E, which actually works too, in some ways better. It's easier to play in E for some reason. Mm-hmm. And I think on the last tour we were playing it in E flat. Mm. So that's what happens when your voice lowers. That a lot of people are playing, like Elton John songs are lower than they used to be in a different key. No, it's I want to say that I also appreciate the people that are putting that on YouTube, of them playing the solo. I don't mean to demean their thing. Yeah. I think it's great that they're doing it. I'm just saying that line is the only thing that people tend to get wrong.
I think it's a great service, and I think that they'll take it in the spirit of what it is that we're saying, which is, ultimately, I think if people know how to do it correctly, they would, and so we're giving them that opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's great. Well, I'd love to hear more of the song and hear you play some of it. But one thing I want to mention before we get into playing is one of the sponsors that makes this possible, which is our friends over at Moises AI. And these tracks would not be possible without them. And they do two things that are really great, that are really useful for us. One is they allow us to isolate the guitar so that we're able to have you recreate your parts. But more importantly, a lot of these Phil Collins songs and a lot of stuff in the 80s was not at A440.
Oh, wow.
And so things can be sped up or slowed down, and it changes the pitch. And so to give you an easy time tuning today, we're also able to take that software and get it to all be at 440 so that we have some continuity between the songs. And it's a really great and useful tool. If people are interested in checking that out, we'll have a QR code on screen, as well as a link that's specific to us in the description. You can click on that. You can get a trial if you'd like, or you can choose to purchase. It's a really great software. Again, highly recommended for people that want to, they want to recreate some of their parts, or they want to hear something to learn that they're working on, or they want to, pretend that they're Daryl playing over a Phil Collins song. They can do all of the above. So let's get the track fired up and let's hear it.
Okay.
Thank
boy. This guitar sounds insane.
Yeah, it's good.
What is this?
I don't know. it's by Godin Guitars, and they made a DS1, which is a Daryl Stuermer one.
Wow.
And I based this on another guitar that I had, one called the LGXT. It's sort of the same body and neck, but it was a synthesized guitar. It had pickups, but it had 2 volume controls and another control for the synth. I liked that guitar a lot, and I bought that guitar. And when a couple of guys from Godin, Mario Biffarelli in particular, came to see us, they were friends of Leland Sklar. So we were playing in Montreal, and I got to meet them, and they started talking to me, and I said, yeah, well, because I had the LGXT on stage, and they said, wow, we'd like you to be an endorsee of ours. So I became an endorsed person. And then after a couple of years down the road, I talked to them how much I like that, but I don't need the synth part of the guitar. So it's kind of based on that. And I wanted 1 volume control. I also like this thing called the HDR, the high definition revoicer. That makes basically the guitar low impedance?
Yeah, low impedance. So it puts some sort of active output on it so that it kind of eliminates any cable capacitance on the output. Yeah,
it has that, and it put a battery in here. What's nice is when you turn that thing off, actually the battery's not on. Like on my Fender Strat with the lace sensor.
Right, it's always there.
It's always on, and it goes out eventually.
Yeah.
This thing, I haven't changed it in years.
Wow.
But I mean, it also doesn't seem to take a lot of battery draw anyway. When it's unplugged, or when it's even plugged in, it doesn't seem to.
And can you split these into single coils, or are they always in humbucker?
No, single coil right there, just like a Strat, basically.
Got it. So 5-way selector switch. Is it master volume, master tone?
This is tone, this is master volume.
Got it.
And now the only thing I changed was I'm a real fan of the Super V Blade Runner.
Okay, got it.
I like that, but the one they had is good. But I'm just a fan of this one, so I just changed that. These tuners are what do you call these?
I like the ratio.
The ratio.
Yeah.
That's the word I'm looking for. They're ratio type of tuners.
Yeah.
You can see it even says LGXT here. It's the same neck that would be on an LGXT.
Got it.
But it's essentially that guitar, but simpler.
Right. Well, Godin actually sent me one, and this is going to be great news to all of the viewers of this interview, is that they are going to give that guitar away to one lucky viewer and listener of this interview. It is the exact same color as the one that you have here, and they're going to ship it directly to your door. And all you need to do is register on the website listed below and in the description. This will ask that you opt in to be emailed by both us at Vertex Effects and by Godin, and you'll get some marketing emails from us periodically that are tastefully done and not overbearing. And by way of entering, that automatically allows you the opportunity to win. We'll announce the winner 4 weeks after the interview goes live. So please do check that out if you're interested in winning a free Godin DS1 signature guitar for Daryl. It is going to be, I think, a really great instrument for a lot of people. It sounds incredible here at recreating all these tones, and I think that someone's really going to love it.
Yeah.
So good luck.
I love it. It's my main guitar now. I like I said, my main guitar was my Strat and this.
Yeah.
It's been like that when I had the LGXT, same thing.
I have one interesting question for you that I'm curious if you would clarify. When we talked to Nathan about this song, he said that Easy Lover wasn't the original title.
That's right.
Can you give your perspective on exactly, like, rehash for us, if you could, what the original title was, but more importantly, why it didn't get named that?
Yeah. Well, the original title, when we were starting work on it, they came up with a lyric, was Choosy Lover. And at one point, Phil just said, I can't do this because there's a cat food in England called Choosy Cat Food. And he says every time he would sing that, he would think, Choosy Cat Food. So they renamed it Easy Lover. I thought Sleazy Lover would be good too.
Might have been too risque for 80s radio.
Easy is bad enough. So no, that's really where it came from.
Yeah.
But I remember when they came up with the song, we were listening back, And Phil just went like this. He said, hit, 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 hit. This has hit stamped all over it. I said, yeah, but you never know.
Are you pretty good at determining what a hit is? I always ask people how their hitometer is. How would you say you're 50-50?
Yeah.
Would you...
I'm 50-50. I can't get it. I didn't know that In the Air Tonight would be a hit, but I did think it was a great song. And I thought it would be a song for Genesis originally, because I didn't know Phil was going to do a solo album. So
But he pitched it to Genesis, or did he pitch it to Genesis?
I heard that he did.
Okay.
And there's two stories. There's one, but one is that they didn't think it would be right for them.
Right.
That's probably the main story right there. I mean, why wouldn't they do that song? I don't know.
Yeah.
But they had other songs, and maybe it just didn't hit them. Like, like I said, the first time I listened to it, I didn't say, "Oh, this is a hit." Now, Easy Lover, that sounded like a hit to me.
Mm.
Maybe because it's very pop.
Tempo-wise, too, it's more...
It's a dance tune?
Yeah.
In the Air Tonight's not a dancey tune. It's not poppy. It's,
It's that drum fill, man. I think that gives everybody, and I'm guilty of this, too. There are people that think it's coming earlier than it is. So I'm sure in the audience, you probably see some people that are just getting ready. And they're like, whoa.
Yeah. That happens all the time. When that drum fill comes in, the whole audience is going like this.
Yeah.
But you're right. I've seen people go, oh, damn. It must be so embarrassing because we're all looking at it. Here it comes.
But many of us can say, well, I've been there. I've been there too. But I think that this is all to say it builds up so much anticipation for this moment. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure somebody hearing it on the first time on the radio, it hits them like a ton of bricks.
But Easy Lover, when we play that live, they go nuts. I mean, because it's this up party tune.
Sure. I mean, that's why you see it on Instagram as a viral clip.
I guess, I'm glad that the solo gets recognized. That's one of the rare ones that do, but it does, and, I didn't have that in Jean-Luc Ponty because he didn't have pop songs, but I mean, there was some solos that I did with Jean-Luc that I really, really liked, but no one else heard them. So.
Yeah. Well, another song that is hugely famous that you played on was the song Sussudio.
Oh, God. Yeah.
And this one is also very up-tempo. I could have sworn when I first heard it that I thought it was Paul Jackson Jr. or Ray Parker or somebody like that because the sensibility and the tone was so much of that kind of like 80s studio sound. And I think that this goes back to sort of a larger theme is that I think people don't realize how amazing of a guitarist and versatile of a guitarist that you can be. You can do ambient with In the Air Tonight. You can do heavily syncopated rhythm parts with Sussudio. You can do beautiful ballads with One More Night. The gamut of guitar tones that you've covered throughout your career and have been cemented as part of these iconic pop songs. It's not just a one tone sort of thing. It's like you can do everything. And I'm really curious about Sussudio. I've read that Phil has said that he was influenced by Prince for this song, and in 1999 specifically. Mm-hmm. Did he ever say anything to you guys when you were recording it that would indicate that was true, or is that? Just...
I mean, he has said that, and he has said that even in interviews. Yeah. But when we were doing it, he didn't say that. Yeah. But I have to say, when I first heard it, I go, "Oh, that's sort of like that. Yeah, that's sort of like the Prince song." And I think what helped move it away a little bit was even that bass part. And that was a guy that sequenced that named David Frank. He had a band called System, him and another guy.
And he was a pretty famous programmer. And
really good. He programmed the stuff on Don't Lose My Number and a couple other songs. If there was any programming, he did it on that album, probably about 4 songs. Really good. When we play that live, by the way, we have a synth part. Like we didn't use the recording synth, but we had it redone. That dun, 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 but we don't have it playing the actual note. It's just like the sound. And Leland or Nathan, whoever's doing the tour, plays the notes. So you doom do 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 doom doom do 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 doom 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 do 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 do. That's how it's done, and it sounds great live. I mean, and both bass players do it great, and um, but it's one of those things because we do a different arrangement live. We don't do it exactly like the record. We really extended it. We have breakdown section in the middle. But that's what we like to do. I mean, even like I said, I do the solo on Easy Lover the same as the record, and then later on I kind of changed the ending. But what we like to do is kind of change up how we play the solo. Maybe the same length, but not the same notes. It depends if the solo is like has to be that way. Because Easy Lover, I felt I don't think Phil said to me do the same solo, but I felt like I have to do the same solo. But if I do a solo in another song, I can play it differently. But that's part of me being a live player more than a studio session player. I always feel like I get inspired by the audience or by the situation I'm in or the band I'm in, and you just want to play things differently because you're not playing the record, you're playing a live performance. And if Phil changes up the actual arrangement, that's when he put a different bass, I should say a different synth bass part in the same notes basically, but a different arrangement. And that's what we do. And playing that song, we were talking about that earlier, is that I think those were done direct.
Yeah, because it does have that Prince sort of direct compressed 1176 or LA2A.
Right.
I presume it was a Strat of some type.
Yeah, it was a Strat, definitely.
And yeah, I think it has some elements of the 1999. The other guitar part that actually has a similarity to it, I don't know temporally if that comes before or after, or whether it was Miami Sound Machine or Gloria Estefan, but Get On Your Feet has a similar sort of rhythmic tone and feel.
Yeah.
I would presume that was after.
I never heard that then.
Yeah. So I think that they came a little later, but it's very much that like clean rhythmic thing, and it sounds incredible. And I think the tough part about it too, as somebody who's played it live, is finding kind of the bounce and the groove in that part is really it's way more difficult than it sounds. And for this one, we're actually, instead of playing it, we're going to listen back to this one. Okay. You had mentioned to me over the phone in sort of our pre-interview and also just in talking that you were okay with mentioning this, that you have Parkinson's. Yeah. And that's affected certain songs. Can you elaborate on kind of
like for instance,
some of the things you had mentioned on the phone?
Yeah, rhythmically it has a lot of effect. For me to play a steady rhythm, like when we did the Genesis tour in 2022, 20 and 22, like within that period after that pandemic or during the pandemic, I was noticing I was having a hard time playing a simple thing like the beginning of Turn It On Again, which is a ding, 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 ding. It's steady. And I never had a problem playing. I'm going, why am I having a problem playing this? I didn't know yet. And the thing is, like when I was just playing Easy Lover, I could play that solo up to the fast line. For some reason, play something that fast and that accurate where it's all picking, not hammering or anything like that. It's all picking. This hand just doesn't work like it did. I don't have the control that I had before. And, it bums me out because I would love to be able to play some of those things. I can play certain songs. There's things that I can do. But I also notice that if I get a little excited about something or if I get anxious about something, I shake a little more. We were having breakfast this morning and I noticed as we went along, all of a sudden, I was just kind of getting into the whole moment. All of a sudden I noticed when I was pouring my milk, I was going, my hand's shaking or trying to eat. So far I've been okay. I've had this, I was diagnosed about probably 8 months ago or a year ago. I can't remember what it was, but it was after the tour, which made me understand. Because I was trying to play certain things. I thought, is this just me getting older? Is this why I can't play it? No, it was really Parkinson's was coming in. But I haven't gotten that much worse than I was originally. In fact, there's some things I can play now that I couldn't play before. It's like anything that's steady is hard to play, that you have to play like in my band, I do the Police song. Is it okay to play?
Yeah. Please.
Like for instance,
Message in a Bottle.
Yeah. How did you know that?
Oh, first two notes.
First, now, I couldn't play that 7 months ago. It was like,
Well, it is a tricky one, even if you don't have Parkinson's.
what happens is you have to kind of tell your brain, do it a different way or think differently. And your brain finally finds a different way. Like if this is the roadblock, it goes around it. So just certain things I can do. And like I have a band and we play a lot of different songs. There's like 4 songs I just can't play anymore because the rhythm part or the line I couldn't do. But I thought I was not going to be able to play Message in a Bottle, which I do, and an instrumental version of it. So that's where I'm at. And, I went through like about months and months of physical therapy, going like 3-4 times a week, which really helped. And I'm on a medication that for some reason doesn't make me tired. Like I know some people that gets tired from that. That helps a lot. Me settle it. Even before this interview, I took these other things called propranolol, which is actually for heart patients, but I have no problem with that. But that kind of calms me a little bit. Like I'm not really shaking now. Sometimes if I start talking about it, I'll start shaking. But I'm living with it, and hopefully I can just keep this steady.
Yeah.
I'm okay. If I could stay where I'm at now, I'd be okay. It's one of those things that you don't know where it's going to go. I talked to my neurologist and I said, "Is everybody different?" She says, "Absolutely." She said, some people it gets worse quicker. Some people it's a slow climb. I think the way the system is today, people are learning so much more. Like the fact that on this medication now that I'm not shaking while I'm sitting here, maybe if I didn't have that medication, I'd be shaking like if that happened 10 years ago. When Michael J. Fox got it, they didn't have the medications they have now, and he could probably be in a better place. But I mean, I really admire him, and I go on his website and check out his. Anyway, that's my story. I wish I could play some of the things I can't play. Like I said, that fast line and the fast line that girl that we talked about can play.
Right.
I can't do that one right now.
Well, I think it's just tremendously courageous that you permitted me to talk to you about this and to reveal that here, and that you're still willing to give it a chance and play some of these songs for us. And it's, again, I'm such an admirer of what you've done as a guitar player. And I'm just very honored that you would be willing to talk to us about that. And in addition,
this is the first time I've ever talked about it sort of publicly.
Yeah.
I mean, my family knows, but I mean,
sure.
And that's why playing a rhythm part like Sussudio is very difficult. Do it real steadily, like it has to be.
I can hardly keep it straight. I'm just so grateful, and again, thank you for being brave about talking about that. And I wonder if we might listen to a little bit of it, and
sure.
and if anything comes to mind, feel free to say it in the moment. We'll have it in on headphones, so we can still discuss, and it's not going to interfere with we can play it underneath our talking. So let me get that set up, and we'll listen to a little bit. That's hard.
I was hearing things I didn't. I played it probably a little different live, and now when I hear, oh, that's how I did that.
So did that conjure any memories?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, we like I said before, we play that song different live. We have a much more extended version of it. There's some really nice stuff in the middle. David Frank, when he did the keyboard sequence, played something in the middle of that I don't hear it much on here, but we kind of emphasize it more, like it's like a. That's playing underneath, like. Da, 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 da. I can sort of play that, but that's what a keyboard. It's there. It just adds something to the feel.
Yeah.
You know, it's a great song. You know, it's funny. Like for the longest time, I actually have a recording of Phil's demo of this song. It's on a cassette, and at the time when he did it, there was no lyrics other than Sussudio. And that was just a sound of he didn't know what it was going to be called. It had no idea. It doesn't mean anything.
So it was just like a scratch vocal.
Scratch vocal.
Yeah.
And then he put lyrics on. He was trying to find another word that could, like studio, you know, something like that, in the studio. But it became Sussudio, and his daughter named one of his daughters named her horse Sussudio. So that's about it. But it's not a real word.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of songs like that, I guess. And
yeah. Da do 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 da
da,
da da.
da. Yeah. The Police. And I think here, another example of that really in a different way is abacab.
Yeah.
That's not a real word. And apparently it has something to do with the structure, like the A, B, and A, you know. But, you know, a lot of these songs work.
Yeah, well, I haven't listened to the question. Like, yeah, what does studio mean? You answered it.
Well, it doesn't mean anything, really.
Right.
But I guess her name is Sussudio. But
right.
What country is that person from?
Yeah, well,
from Milwaukee.
Yeah, maybe. Is it? I guess it could be Native American inspired. I don't know. I guess because Milwaukee in the name, as we know from Wayne's World, you know, and Alice Cooper.
Oh, what is it?
I forget the
Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Milwaukee.
And, the good land.
The good land.
You know, and we're not the only Milwaukee, as far as I know. Are you from Milwaukee as well?
Milwaukee,
yeah. There's another Milwaukee, but it's different spelling. It's a K-I-E at the end.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yes. So that's why even sometimes I'll say, I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. You know, I don't remember where the other one is. I don't know if it's Iowa or something like that.
Well, I think you've got the dominant one.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, I want to move into another Phil Collins song, which is Don't Lose My Number.
Oh, yeah.
And this is also off of No Jacket Required, 1985. And this one, I love the guitar part on it. I love the solos. I love just like kind of the stabs, you know, and then just coming down the fretboard. I'm wondering if you remember much about how this song evolved, how it came to be, your involvement, any details about the session that you could share with us.
Yeah. Yeah, I was trying to remember that song. You know, there's that one part. I do that live, but on the record, it's a keyboard. Ding, 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 right?
Was it trying to simulate a guitar sound, or because it almost sounds just like a super staccato?
Right. It's like. Oh, I don't need this. So live, that's what I play, because we don't have another instrument playing. Ding, ding, ding. It's a keyboard. It's not a marimba, but something percussive. But I don't think it's trying to be a guitar. Maybe originally when he did the demo, he thought, oh, a guitar will do this. But then it sounded so good on its own. So live, I don't have to stand around and wait to play my parts, because I get to play. Then later on, we had a second guitarist added to the band, Ronnie, and Ronnie is an old friend of Phil's from way back. They were in a band together, and so he'd play that part. So I'd go, okay, now what do I do? Dun, 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 dun. So we both could play it, you know. But as far as the session itself, it just went like all the other sessions, and we play. It's all drum machine, you know. Isn't most of that album drum machine?
Well, a lot of it is.
Yeah. Phil really got into drum machine for a while.
That old Roland one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He got into drum machine, and it sounds great. I got into like,
ironic that he would be the one to do it.
I know.
Guitar.
Yeah, it's like most drummers don't like that, but then again, he's sort of an experimental person, isn't
And
he?
he kind of has the mind of a producer too. And you think about
Yeah.
kind of how, so I think he could get outside of himself, which is hard for some artists.
Well, when you write a song in your room, in your studio or your room or whatever it is, you kind of get used to the way it's sounding. So he put drum machine down and probably go, wow, why would I need to put drums on this? Because it sounds great the way it is. And that's what happens. And that what happens to all of us. Sometimes when I'm doing my own record, I do a demo and I think, okay, I don't want to change anything,
Yeah.
But then when you get another person in on it, they play something that's so inspiring. You go, yeah, that sounds better than what I had. I'm not saying that happened with Phil because live we don't use drum machine. We use the actual drummers playing it.
Was he pretty unattached, you would say, to like parts where he could be able to substitute things if he thought it was better?
Yeah.
He was, as far as it kind of being a producer.
Yeah. I mean, if you came up with something and it was better, he'd let you do that, of course, or else he'd double it.
How much freedom would he give you to do, like, would he dictate a guitar part like this to you or with any of these, or would he say, we're just going to listen through, do a pass, and let's see what you come up with?
Most of the time, he's just, let's just put it on and see what you do. And then if you do something, he might say, do that, but maybe just stop that over here. Don't play that here. Or else you do it all and they just take it out. Like they mute it at that part and say, this sounds better. It's just like this. You tend, at least me, I tend to play a lot more than you need in the end, But you kind of just go through it and just say, you're just kind of searching for little parts. And then if he says, let's do that kind of thing, then you might redo it and then just do that part. There's so many examples of that in any of the records with Phil. Same thing when the bass player Leland Sklar is playing or Nathan, they come up with a nice part and you just go, well, let's do that. Let's keep that, but let's not do this part. Let's put that in there. Mm-hmm. Phil is he's pretty open, really, to a new idea, but he does have demos that have specific things that you have to play. It doesn't mean you can't add on to it, but that you must do.
So those stabs, were those on there, or that was just
that was me.
Yeah.
But I'm glad. I just you go, oh, I like that. Okay, let's do that.
And for that song, I don't know if he gave you guys any insight into this, but I've heard him say that the lyrics were basically improvised, like during the session.
Yeah, a lot. He does that a lot. They're improvised. It might, but then he kind of tidies them up later.
So he'll sing, like, often when you guys are tracking, will that be an improvised lyric at that point, or will it be okay? And then he'll go back and overdub the vocal?
He rarely has a song finished as far as lyrically. He has a song finished musically, but not lyrically. So a lot of times he's just saying, Sussudio, But there's these things in between that mean nothing. There was a song, there's a lot of songs like that. I don't know any song that was finished as we went in to the studio. But then he comes up with the lyric later. And I know Genesis does that too.
Interesting. I think that's a really interesting insight, just for people behind the scenes that may not realize that when the band is constructing their component, that they're playing to either a scratch or sort of a gibberish mixed with keywords. I know that's how most singers or a lot of singers compose their work, but it's always interesting to see somebody's process
because he's composing at that moment. And like he kind of likes the idea of coming in kind of fresh. Like, here's the idea. Let's go with
Let's
it.
sort
it out in the studio.
That's great.
Because that's the way Genesis does it.
I love it. I love that. I think it's clearly it's been a winning formula for the band.
Yeah, I wish I could do that.
Yeah.
Well, they have their own studio, so they have their own studio time. They don't feel rushed.
Sure.
With Genesis, they each come in with an idea, and then they expand on it in the studio.
That's cool.
Like Turn It On Again, Mike came up with a ding, 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 da, 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 and then there's more chords later on.
Yeah.
All of their songs are like that. When Genesis decided at some point, we're not going to come in with a full song. Just come in with some ideas. Because it was getting into that thing like, oh, these two guys wrote this one, this guy wrote this one. They're all a band. They did an album after, I don't know what year it was. It was in the 80s. And it was called Genesis. And Genesis album meant that all of these songs are written by the three of us. All of the songs. There's not one Tony Banks song, not one Mike Rutherford song, not a Tony Banks, Mike Rutherford. Once Phil became a writer himself, I think that's why things changed.
Got it. Well, I'm wondering if we can do a little performance of it in you had mentioned to me in advance that you were going to kind of approach the solo more like you would live.
Yeah.
And then kind of do the rhythm guitar parts, as they were on the record. Do you remember what you originally used? Did you use a Marshall, you think, for that?
I don't. I know I used the Strat. But
and was that just an 80s Strat that would have been around at that time in the kind of the mid 80s?
Yeah, definitely. And I remember because it would either be using my Suntech guitar or a Strat that was in the studio, white. It was white. Maple
neck or rosewood fretboard, or
I think it was maple.
Maple, okay.
That's sort of I lean that way for Strats for some reason. Yeah. Great guitar. I mean, I loved it. But I'm sorry to say I can't remember the amp.
No, that's okay. It's okay. Well, we'll get that queued up and hear a little of it.
Yeah.
And I'm
the bass player?
Yeah.
Wow. That sounded incredible.
Oh, thanks.
I realized that I've been playing one of those pieces wrong, where you slide up the na na na. I always did it as a bend.
Oh.
Yeah. But maybe that's why it didn't sound right.
Well, it works too. Yeah, but it's less bluesy, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Such a great part.
Oh, thanks.
But Daryl, I'd like to transition to a ballad. This would be kind of the first that we've done so far, which is the song "One More Night."
Oh yeah.
And it's got some really beautiful triad and kind of the all of the. And I'm presuming it's a strat.
Yes.
It sounds very stratty. It's got beautiful textures on it. Can you tell me much about what you remember about that song, that session? I'm really curious about what was already there, or what Phil told you to do, or if that was all just your sensibility.
It really, pretty much, he left it up to me. He just, I remember you and him sitting there. He played the song for me on the demo.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, he sent the demo. That's what he does. He always sends you demos first, just sort of like to get the idea. And when I'm home, I don't really come up with any ideas at home. I wait until I get there, and then just kind of not winging it, but just kind of feeling it around. And the only thing I remember him saying to me is don't come in, let the first verse go without guitar, and then come in after that. And then that's where it went. It was pretty much that kind of thing. And if you come up with something he likes, Leland always talks about that. Like, if they like it, they don't say anything. They'll tell you if they don't want it. And Leland was doing the bass on something like, I don't know if it was Another Day in Paradise. And he played the part, and all of a sudden they were finished, and he looks over and he says, and Phil and you were like going like this. So what do you think of the kick drum? He said they were talking about the kick drum because what he did was just fine.
Mm-hmm.
That's sort of like a lot of times when I'm working with Mike Rutherford and Tony Banks and Phil, like I'm waiting for them to say like, oh, no, that's really good. And they'll tell you it's not good if it's not good. Otherwise, that means it's fine. They don't have to tell you anything.
Mm.
So when I played One More Night, I play some things a little different live. Again, you kind of embellish some things a little bit more. If they like it, it's done.
So was that a single take, you think?
Probably. If the only reason it would be if I didn't know that it was going somewhere else.
Like a change for the bridge or something like that.
But can we just go back to that? Because everything before that is fine. Let's just punch in right there.
Got it.
That's it. So in a sense, it's a first take. I don't think there was much for me to.
Yeah, because you go into like those arpeggio things.
Right.
And,
it kind of builds up a little bit. Like if we play it now, I know we played it a little different live, so I could screw it up.
Well, I think you could do a compilation of the original and how you play it, because we know that the live you've certainly played many times. The studio version you played that once with a potential punch in, so it makes sense that you would do that. Do you know what you would have used other than the Strat? Do you think that would have been also through a Marshall, or do you think it would have been through a cleaner amp? Or
it would have been a clean amp. Definitely a clean amp.
Were you ever using Fenders, or would this been like JC120s, or?
It probably was a JC120 at that time.
So it had some chorus on it for sure, and some
which I'll
delay.
use in this case because I'll use the Strymon Ola.
Okay.
I really love that thing.
Yeah, it's a great pedal. And would you use delay in the box, or I guess in that time hardware delays like a Lexicon or something like that, or would you have used like a physical delay?
I used a physical. I remember doing a lot of stuff. Hugh Padgham believed on certain things, if that's your sound with that box, then that's what I record.
Okay.
Yeah, let's print that.
What delay would you think you'd be using at that time? That would have also been 85.
It would have been a Boss something.
The digital delay, probably the DD2 would have been the only option at that time.
Yeah, that's what I used. I'm pretty sure that's what I used because
that was the very first Stomp Box digital delay.
Was it really?
It was the very first one Boss to come out with it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I could have used an old Space Echo or Echo, but I wasn't. I definitely used something on my pedal.
If it was the white one with blue writing, it was 100% the DD2.
Nice sounding one.
Yeah,
really
I still have one. I still have one, yeah.
Yeah, that's, You know, the only thing what I love about some of the new things, because they're stereo. I love running chorus in stereo.
Yeah,
Live
that one was
or-
not stereo.
What's that?
I don't think that.
Oh no,
DHs
no, no, no.
I think you had a second output jack, but what it would do is one would become 100% wet, and then
Yeah.
the other one would be dry.
That's like their chorus
Yeah.
at the time, right?
Yeah.
It'd be like dry on one side and chorus on the other. But what I like about these new things like the Strymon Ola is beautiful stereo. I mean, there's a lot of good ones now, you know. but
Sure.
I'm kind of partial to these guys because I have 3 Strymon pedals on here right now.
Yeah, you definitely got some good representation.
Yeah, you know, I mean that Pete is that guy's a genius, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, he just comes up with some great stuff.
Do you have an approach for a ballad when you're in a studio versus how you might approach a faster paced song like a Sussudio that's more upbeat, or something that's like more rock oriented, like Don't Lose My Number?
What do you mean, like approach?
Like when you have that much space, do you think about it differently as far as like what your mentality is?
Yeah. Well,
Because that's where a lot of us guitar players go wrong. There's so much space
Yeah.
that we just screw it up and soil ourselves.
you want to fill the space.
Yeah.
Well, I know, you know, a song like this, you don't want to overplay. You know, that is like One More Night. You don't overplay that. When I first played Don't Lose My Number just as a run through, I might play more than I would what ends up on recording. I mean, you kind of know that after years and years of playing, you know, if you overplay, it's not going to be on the recording. But if you underplay or just play what works for that song, then it's going to be there.
Mhm.
You know, not everything that you play is going to be there. You know, that's just the way it is. I mean, a lot of the studio players that you talk to, you know, Michael Thompson and Dan Huff and them, they know exactly what to play in that setting. I know what to play with Phil. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because I've been with him for so long
Mhm.
now, and I know what he needs. I know what he wants. It doesn't mean I always get it right. It just means I'm pretty close. I'm pretty close to
Yeah.
getting it.
Well, I think you have some of those same sensibilities, even though you don't recognize it in yourself. Like, I don't know what chord it is right before you go into the chorus, but you do like a hammer on with, I think, an open note. It might be an F sharp or something like that, where you do that hammer on right before it goes into the, yeah. Like that whole thing. I don't know. Is that F sharp, or is that, that could be somewhere else? I could be hearing it wrong. Yeah.
So that's on the record, because I know I play that live.
Yeah, and that's like that sort of thing, like just those little fills or those little accents, just to kind of pull out part of the chord.
Yeah.
Like those sorts of things are stuff that the studio guys do all the time.
Right.
And I think you have it, even though you may say it's relegated to Phil, it's there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I played on people's things that are not even known people. It could be local. And, I'm hoping I'm playing the right things for them, and they seem to think so.
Yeah, well, again, if they don't say anything, right, as you said.
And I've done, TV commercials and things like that, local TV commercials. And, no one's ever said that's not working,
Yeah. Well, I'm wondering if we can get the track queued up and switch guitars to the Strat and go from there.
Yeah.
One more night. One more night. I've been trying for so long to let you know how I feel. And if I stumble, if I fall, just help me back so I can make you see. Please give me one more night. Give me one more night. One more night, 'cause I can't move forever. Give me just one more night. Ooh, just one And I was wondering, should I call you? Then I thought, maybe you're not alone. Please give me one more night. Give me just one more night. Oh, one more night. 'Cause I can't wait forever. Please give me one more night. Oh, just one more night. Oh, one more night. 'Cause I can't wait forever. Give me one more night. Give me just one more night. Ooh, one more night. 'Cause I can't wait forever. Like a river to the sea, I will always be with you. And if you sail away, I will follow you. Give me one more night. Give me just one more night. Oh, one more night. 'Cause I can't wait forever. I know there'll never be a time you'll ever feel the same. And I know it's only words. But if you change your mind, you know that I'll be here. And maybe we both can learn. Give me just one more night. Give me just one more night. One more night. 'Cause I can't wait forever. Give me just one more night. Give me just one more night. One more night. 'Cause I can't wait forever.
Anyway,
Wow. What a great song. What a great guitar part.
oh, thanks. Yeah, it's simple, but it works.
So this Strat's got some history. Body is an Eric Clapton.
Yeah.
Lay sensors, got the TBX tone control and mid boost. What was the reason for changing the neck?
The neck was more of that V.
Yeah, it was a V shape on
It
the
was a little.
and little frets,
Yeah, that was part of it too. I wanted to get this.
the medium jumbo.
Yeah, and they were all getting very worn out. And I know you could get a fret job, but I thought I'll just get a new neck because this is the type of neck I prefer.
Got it.
But at the time, that's what I got. And
You still got the neck?
I think the guy who put this on has it at his house. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's my guy in town. His name is
Okay.
Jim Ianelli, and he works on my guitars. So
All right.
yeah, a good Italian boy.
All right. Well, before we move to the next song, I want to talk about another sponsor that makes these interviews possible, and it's our friends over at Mogami Cable. And as you might notice, we have a Mogami cable that has been transmitting the guitar signal into the pedal board, and then also transmitting the XLRs back to the DAW. And boy, they are, in my opinion, of the boutique manufacturers, kind of the number one choice. It's used by pretty much every professional rig builder, all the way back to the legacy guys like Robert Bradshaw, from the 80s up until the current guys that are, the top guys in the game, whether it's, Exactone or Brian O'Million or Goodwood Audio or LA Sound Design. All these guys are all using Mogami cables. Dave Friedman, I should also mention in that. All Mogami cable guys. And we're using the Mogami Gold cable, which is a 2524, all made in Nagano, Japan. And boy, they just make incredibly great stuff. I'm sure that you've used it in other capacities over the years. They're pretty ubiquitous in front of house capacities, studio capacities. So they are generously offering to give listeners to this interview. They're going to give away 5 10-foot instrument leads, Mogami Gold, Neutrik ends. All they need to do, simple as this, follow Daryl on Instagram, follow Mogami on Instagram, and follow Vertex Effects. Those will all be listed in the description and also on screen so that you know where to find us. Commenting the word Mogami in any of the posts that we do promoting this particular interview will automatically allow you entry as a person that could win one of the 5 people. And we'll be announcing those 14 days after this video goes live on YouTube. So Easy way to get a great quality cable. But with that aside, Daryl, I want to move into the song Something Happened on the Way to Heaven. And you are quite familiar with this song since you were intimately involved in the creation and writing of the song. Is that right?
Yeah, I am. My main part of the song is I wrote all the chords in the bridge are mine and a couple of the chords in the chorus. Like that's like the chords in this is what it originally was. But what I added to it, otherwise it was just going to be, instead of, and then here, and then the bridge.
Yeah.
And those chords made a difference.
Make a huge difference in the whole feel of it, and you get to see some of your jazz sensibilities, come into play there instead of them just kind of being more straight ahead chords for sure.
And why that came about is because Phil heard something else I wrote that had a very similar chord structure, and he said, "Put that chord in there." It's really interesting when you talk to guys like in Genesis, Mike Rutherford, Tony Banks. They don't always speak in terms of just musical thing. Right. It's not being, they say, I like that, let's do that. Oh, stab that on the bass pedal instead of, or like we use the word anticipation, like an eighth note before the Brit, and they'll say stab. Or also, they'll use language like that. At first I was like thrown off by that because I was used to playing a band where everybody's speaking in real technical musical terms. Right.
You had to create your own lookup table for Genesis. Okay, if Mike says X, that means...
Yeah, but it's really interesting because it's musical in its own way. It's like, it's intuitive stuff, Yeah. Anyway, but that's how that kind of came about.
It's funny that they would have that sort of language for what they do because some of it feels so technical, especially in the more prog generation of Genesis, that it would be so colloquial in kind of the way that they would verbalize.
Absolutely. No, it's really true. When I was going to go and rehearse with them, I thought, this is going to be real technical. Tony Banks is going to be very technical because, you listen to his parts, they're very complicated.
Sure.
And really interesting chords. They're not typical. Tony will just play one chord and I'll go, that sounds like Tony Banks. Just the way he voiced that chord. Or instead of playing a C, he'll play a bit like an F F on the C. Like,
Sure.
I mean, it doesn't mean it's original, but he never does anything that's typical.
Sure.
Like that chord. He uses a lot of like. That's a D against a G. Stuff like that, just which I didn't really hear a lot of before. It's almost classical in a sense. And Tony's very influenced by orchestral music.
Interesting.
So he's like the real orchestra side of Genesis. Mike's the real kind of really good pop thing, and Phil is kind of the rhythm.
I think it's interesting too that voicing, because I think that for a lot of bands, like just the G would get buried and you'd only hear the top note
Right.
anyway.
Yeah.
But when you're in a band and you can create, you can create the space that you want to create for whatever notes you want to come through. You have a little bit more leeway to do that. And we're going to get into this more in some of the songs to come, but this isn't the first time that Phil has either used music that you've already composed and then wrote lyrics to, or that you were a writer on. I think a lot of people may not realize that, there are several songs in this catalog.
Yeah.
And even, in some of your work with Easy Lover and stuff like that, although some of that isn't credited, you kind of, you're part of a lot of these songs and kind of making them what they are. I'm curious, like, in terms of the development of the song, you came up with those chords. Was that another one that was like on the day when Phil's kind of trying to sort out whatever it was?
It was pretty much on the day. He gave me the demo and I had it in my hotel room because he had mentioned something he liked. Like I said, that he liked this particular song and this chord pattern. And I thought I could work that in this song. And that's what happened. And it's kind of that simple.
Yeah.
It's amazing that happens. I mean, a lot of times I'll write a song, or I'll play Phil a song that I've demoed, and he'll say, "I like that. We did a song, and it was on the working title was F song.
F song.
It was in the key of F, and I was going to title it later on. And he says, I really like that. And he said, would you mind if I wrote lyrics to that? Yeah. Don't touch my song. It's perfect the way it is. Of course, for him to write lyrics to one of my songs was a great thing for me, and he did.
Yeah.
And that song was called "I Don't Want to Know." And
we'll definitely get to that one.
Oh yeah.
I'm curious on this one. You'd mentioned to me over the phone that you didn't play on this song.
I played
rhythm,
all the rhythm guitar parts, all that stuff, and power chords. But originally, apparently, the song was going to have a sax solo. So I was done with my session, and I did the rest of the songs and went home. And then they decided to put guitar on it. So Dominic Miller played the little fills in the middle and the solo at the end of the song.
Wow!
So that's how that came about.
And it was that just sort of a consequence of proximity that he was there, or like they used him. I know he's on Another Day in Paradise, right?
Right. Because he was there, and Hugh Padgham worked with him with
Sting,
and the Police was different, but Sting, and so he played the nylon string thing.
Yeah.
And then on this song, he played, like I said, I played all the rhythm and all the guitar parts other than the solo and the little fills at the last verse.
Yeah. Well, this one we're also going to listen back to, and get kind of your reactions as we kind of go through it. And just whatever comes to mind as it's going, we'll be listening in headphones, so it won't be picked up in the mics, and we can get your impressions now. We're talking almost 35 years later, something like that.
Oh boy!
Yeah.
Is it that long?
That's a tricky little part.
Yeah.
We had a life, we had a love, but you don't know what you got till you lose. Well, I was there, and
Nathan.
You know you can run and you can't hide, but I'm not leaving unless you come with me. We've had our problems, but I'm on your side. You're all I need. Please believe in
Wow. When I was first playing it, I was playing it in the wrong key. I mean, good thing I'm not on, but all of a sudden I came to I was going, because we played it a half step down for live.
for the live.
Wow.
How does that sound to you all these years later?
I like it more than I thought. You know what I mean? It's really nice. It's a nice sound, and I was hearing my parts better.
Yeah, and the headphones is a little more isolated.
And then the little arpeggio thing in the middle.
Yeah.
Kind of almost like every breath you take, kind of.
Yeah. I was actually thinking about Dominic Miller here. He doesn't really get a chance to solo. Like how many Sting songs have guitar solos? There's not. Right. I can't really think of it. I can think of parts where like his guitar is more mixed forward because like Fragile or Shape of My Heart or something like that. It's more guitar driven.
Yeah.
But there aren't any solos. I don't think. I can't even think of.
Not a solo,
yeah,
just a little part.
Yeah, so it's kind of we get to actually hear what he does with the solo. Not that he couldn't do it; it's just the Sting stuff doesn't usually have it.
No, he's a great player.
Yeah, undoubtedly,
and comes up with some wonderful, tasteful.
Absolutely,
parts.
Yeah, he's another guy who's got some legendary stuff that he's done. Well, I'm wondering if we can move to the other song that we mentioned briefly, which is also a song that you wrote. In this case, you'd already released as an instrumental song, right?
Yes.
The song I Don't Want to Know.
Yeah.
And then how did Phil hear that song to know to ask you, can I write lyrics to this?
In fact, I was at his house doing the demos for No Jacket Required because he doesn't play guitar. Thank God he doesn't play guitar because he plays a lot of keyboards on his own records and the keyboard player is like, but he doesn't play guitar. So he would have me come over and stay at his house and we'd go in his room. He had a room about this size and keyboards and 8-track tape, reel to reel. And he would send me demos and say, why don't you come over and then we'll put some guitar on this song, Sussudio, and another song called Doesn't Anybody Stay Together Anymore? Yeah. I'm a co-writer of that song.
Okay.
And another bridge that he didn't have. He had everything but the bridge, And I Don't Want to Know is I while I was there, I wanted to see what he thought. I was not intending for him to do it at all. I just thought, what do you think of this?
Was this out in England or was this in California?
In England,
okay.
Yeah. He lived in Guildford.
Okay.
In Surrey. And so I played it for him one day and he really liked it. And he said, that's the one where he said, do you mind if I write some lyrics to it? Yeah, I don't mind. So he did. And we ended up putting it on the record. But it was originally, as a working title, it was called F Song.
Right.
It ended up on his record in E flat,
right.
Which is not a guitar key again.
Well, unless you're Stevie Ray Vaughan.
yeah, then it's fine, you know.
Or Jimi Hendrix, I guess.
Yeah. But that's how that kind of came about.
And so you just wanted to get kind of his take on it. You played it for him, and then he asked about the and
you always play it for your friends, or people that you have a respect for. Not that they're going to tell you all the truth if they hate it, but they'll just say, "Oh, it's kind of interesting."
Yeah.
But he actually liked it enough to want to write lyrics to it. He heard a vocal in there.
What was the time that elapsed between when you played it for him until when the record actually came out, or when it was obvious to you? I guess it's two parts. When it was clear that he was going to put it on the record and he had written lyrics to it, and then when the record actually came out.
Well, we did the demos and then we had to do the album. So that's probably about a year later.
Okay.
Yeah, at least within the year, but around that time, maybe 9 months.
Would you
I
say
mean, you have a baby in 9 months. You have a,
right? You have an album.
yeah,
Yeah, it's its own birth, I guess.
yeah.
When this record came out for No Jacket Required, that was 85, right? Was that by that time, do you feel like you were pretty established as a musician, and like you were making like real money now that you were co-writing on some of these big
Yeah.
songs? Like what was like the album or the part where it was kind of like you didn't have to worry about anything anymore? Like it was kind of
That was the album.
that was the album.
I think that was like the real turning point. Anytime before that, you're insecure enough to think that, oh, this
could go away. Or,
yeah. I mean, I did Face Value with him, and then I did Hello, I Must Be Going, and then this. And this became such a hit album. I remember there was at least 5 Grammys.
Yeah.
I mean, we were all at the Grammys. The first present of the night was for Best Male Vocal. And he got it for one more night.
Mm-hmm.
And he went up there and he thanked we were all sitting there and he thanked us, even our names, me and Leland and Chester Thompson or whatever. Anybody that was on the album, Chester was not on the album, but which was really nice, you know, and we were all sitting in the second row and it was at Universal Amphitheater or something. And then he kept winning. And he came up there at one point and said, I thanked everybody already. I don't know what else to say because he kept winning. It was at least 5.
Wow.
Song of the Year, Best Male Vocal of the Year, Album of the Year, Producer, him and Hugh Padgham. Right. You know, it was amazing. And it was such a great night. That seemed to change everything. Wow. For me. And
yeah.
You know,
so when you started getting these checks in the mail for writing credits.
You know, and I always say that one of the songs bought the house, you know.
Right.
And you know, and the other thing is that was a turning point for him too, because all of a sudden we had a tour in 1985 and he was selling out all these. We could have played bigger venue, but we were selling out everything that we did, everywhere we played. It was like, it was almost a surprise to him that record just became huge. Face Value was okay, and Hello, I Must Be Going, because there was singles on it. But you know, In the Air Tonight was never a number 1. But now, after all these years, it's a number 1 in some sense. But and so many people have even covered it.
Yeah,
you know. But the original is the best one, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I think.
Do you remember the first big like item that you bought, like when you started getting these like big checks that were like substantial money? Do you remember like anything that you kind of like went out and bought that would have been out of the ordinary?
You know, I'm not a guy that buys a boat. I'm not a guy that buys a fancy car. The big item I bought was the house.
Yeah.
You know, I got a big check from something and I said, is this real?
It's this house? Mm-hmm. What year did you buy this house?
1991.
Wow. So this was 6 years after that.
Yeah. I didn't buy it. You know, I mean, I didn't grow up on this side of town. I grew up on the south side of Milwaukee, which is that's like working class. Blue collar workers. My father was a factory worker at Allen Bradley, and that's a factory here. My mother worked at a nursing home, and she's still around. She's 97 years old.
Wow.
And so I always thought money could go away anytime.
Yeah.
So even when I'm doing well, there's in the back of my mind, okay, don't spend all this money now because you could just go completely down. And when I would ask Genesis, when's the next tour? They go, oh, I don't know. We don't know if you're even going to do another tour. I started feeling comfortable with Genesis about that time too, because then we did the Invisible Touch tour, which was a super big album for them, 1987. So that period, the mid 80s, was when I started feeling somewhat secure. Mm-hmm. You know, before that, no. I was with Jean-Luc Ponty first. I wasn't making any big money with him, but I was having a great time playing great music. He's a great musician. I was so grateful to have that. But I remember the first year I was with Jean-Luc Ponty, which was in 1975. I had made more money with my local band playing 5 nights a week at a nightclub than I made that year I was with Jean-Luc Ponty. And I remember it was like $12,000.
Wow.
And, you know, the nightclub, it was a steady work, played every night. We're only making $20 a piece, and then maybe on Saturday make 30. And, you know, I bought it. I didn't buy anything. I was renting, you know, a place that was close by, this club called Sardino's Bullring. And we had a great band. We had a great time. I wasn't thinking about that far in the future. I never knew I'd be able to be a musician for the rest of my life. I thought, what'll happen if I can't do this? You know, but it all worked out.
Yeah, absolutely,
You
it
know.
did. Well, I'm wondering if we can play a little bit of "I Don't Want to Know" and get to hear it. Would that be
Do you want me to play?
would that be Strat? Would that be Godin? What would be the kind of thing you used on it?
I don't remember, but it could be any one of these. I'm more comfortable with the Godin,
Let's do that.
you know, only because I play this so often. But let me see what I play on.
Yeah, we can get it queued up here.
It's over. Oh, yes, it's all over. And it's been a long time coming. Some say it's too long. Oh, she said it. Now she regret it. Oh, but she asked anyone. I'm gonna tell her to her face that it's too late. 'Cause I don't wanna know. No, I don't wanna know. She can cry all she wants. She's not gonna bring me back. No, no, I don't wanna know. No, I don't wanna know. She can try all she wants. It's not gonna get me back. Oh, no, no. You want me? Oh, yes, they all want me. They told me now, don't lose your heart to her. She'll never give it back. No, no. Oh, it's too late. She made a big mistake. It wouldn't be the first one anyway. Tell me how many more. No, no, no. No, I don't wanna know. No, I don't wanna know. She can cry all she wants. She's not gonna bring me back. No, no, I don't wanna know. No, I don't wanna know. She can try all she wants. It's not gonna get me back. No, no. It's over. Oh, it's all over. And it's been a long time coming. Some say it's too long. Oh, they want me. Oh, yes, they all want me. They told me now, don't lose your heart to her. She'll never give it back. No, 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 no. I don't wanna know. No, I don't wanna know. She can cry all she wants. She's not gonna get me back. No, no, I don't wanna know. No, I don't wanna know. She can try all she wants. It's not gonna bring me back. No, 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 no.
Yeah. Wow. That one's hard.
There's so many chords, and they're not like movable shapes.
No.
You know? It's like everything you're having to reset for every chord.
That's like.
Because it makes sense that it was written as an instrumental guitar part because
Yeah.
all of the chords are outlining or shadowing the melody voicing, and so now you have to do this for following Phil.
Well, the thing is, when I did it, the keyboard's going to go. You know, it would going to be. I wasn't going to be playing that. I was going to be playing a melody over top the keyboard. I don't know.
The crazy thing is that the complexity of that is a pop song, you know, like, and it's unusual that we would see those type of chord voicings that would show up on the radio. It's like somehow you between you and Phil, you figured out how to sort of bury it to the point where it was palatable
Yeah.
as pop, but like all of the sensibilities of those chords is 100% from a jazz type thing. It's like, you know, you have to be able to comp like that if you're playing standards, you know, or something
Yeah.
like that. And
yet we don't think about it.
we don't think about it from the listeners. It's like, wow, it's a great pop song, you know.
What? It's not pop? You know, that's
surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when you grow up and you're listening to, you know, bands like Yes and King Crimson. Those aren't typical pop songs, even though some of them get on the radio. But, you know, they're always a little bit more advanced, a little more progressive,
Sure.
you know, so.
Yeah. Well, it sounds absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for recreating that. And that is actually, before we talked, I actually didn't know that you wrote that song. But I've always loved that song. It's one of my favorite songs on that record.
Oh, wow.
And I love you know, I know you're doing most of the chording, but I love the single notes that will shadow the melody.
Oh, yeah.
In the chorus, you know, and the kind of like the more distorted.
Yeah.
I love like those little parts are just to me so cool and just make that song what it is.
Thanks.
Yeah. Well, Daryl, I'm just so honored to be here with you in your home studio, and for you to have taken us through all of these amazing songs that you were a part of, that you co-wrote or wrote, and getting to hear the stories, getting to hear about the gear, and just getting to just be in your presence. I have to say, I've been a fan of you and Phil Collins since I was a kid. This is music that my parents played and that my brother and I grew up on, and getting to hear it sort of recreated in front of me is the closest I can put myself to being in the studio with you when it happened. So
thanks.
just thank you for everything that you've done and all
thanks.
of the great work that you've done as a guitar player. And I know that people are going to be extremely excited to see you with me in this capacity and getting to hear the stories directly from the horse's mouth. So thank you.
Thank you. You're definitely welcome.
Yeah.
I've been watching you for the last year or so too.
Yeah, well, I was shocked when you said that you had some of my pedals.
I know.
Before we even met. I wish I had known. I would have sent you a little care package.
Oh, well, that's okay. No, I love the stuff. So that's why it's on the board.
Yeah. Well, thank you again, and again, what an honor, and you know, I just can't wait for people to get out there and be able to see this and get to see you doing all your guitar parts. It's just so cool.
Oh, thanks, Mason.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.